Hello and welcome to this week's episodes of Expander Secrets. Today we are going to be talking about cosmetic products, which is quite an exciting subject, lots to cover, but particularly about selling cosmetic products in Europe. Okay, on the often anticipated complexity of that, but actually how relatively straightforward it is, providing you use a reputable company to support you with that. So I'm pleased to be joined by Prince Rajguru, Business Development Manager for Expandly. I've just done an intro for you there, Prince, but feel free to say hello.
Yeah, hello, and hello, everyone. Happy to be on this podcast here today and speak about the wonderful world of cosmetics. So, yeah, let's go.
Nice. Prince is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to compliance, and he's well versed on this subject. So, between him and I, we're going to hopefully battle down some myths and overcome some objections and thoughts about expanding your cosmetic products into Europe. So my name's Drew, head of sales here at Expandly, and I look after an awesome team of people who support brands expand their businesses into Europe. So welcome, thanks for joining us, and hopefully find this insightful. So I'm just going to kick off with what is a cosmetic? Because whilst it sounds quite straightforward and simple, and we can often visualize what products we're going to put into a cosmetic bracket, it's a very fine line between a cosmetic and maybe like a medicine. So understanding what you need to put in your packaging or not put in your packaging, in fact, in order to make sure that you're fitting that product into the right category. So the actual definition of a cosmetic is a substance that you put on your face or your body to improve your appearance. And it's specifically about improving it, not changing it. So if it's got a physical change to your body, then it's likely to be classed as a medicine. And of course, then you've got a whole different world of complexity when you start getting into the medicinal world. So we're talking about here, just to reiterate again, we're talking about improving the appearance, something you put on, and it's just going to make you feel that little bit better. So very short definition there, but what we're going to look at now specifically, Prince is going to talk a little bit about the different trends and likes and dislikes maybe in different countries within Europe. So whilst we look, when you think of Europe, it's one region, and therefore, everybody may have the same likes and dislikes, but there's so many countries that make up Europe that different countries have different specific likes and dislikes. So Prince is going to delve into a little bit about what each of them look like. So Prince, over to you, really. So just talk a little bit about Europe as a whole, and then some quirky bits that we might not think about when expanding.
Yeah. So, no, thanks, Drew. You're completely right. Obviously, cosmetics, it's such a massive market all across the world. I mean, I know we're speaking just specifically here, about European markets, but as we know, it's one of the top selling product types across multiple different marketplaces. And it's quite interesting when you actually delve into specific countries and some of their consumer trends. We obviously see cosmetics plastered across advertisements on the TV. I mean, when you're catching that flight and going on holiday, you're going through the duty free. What do you see straight away? First of all, it's cosmetics everywhere on stands, and in shopping centers as well. So it's interesting because if, for example, you look at Italian consumers, Italy has always been quite known to be into their fashion. A lot of the fashion trends tend to come from Italy, and that's what they really do focus on. So, certain trends, an emphasis more on appearance and like an overall look. But then if you go over more towards France, for example, French consumers, they're more into their skincare. Okay. I'll be completely honest. I don't use skincare products myself, but as we all know, they're well sought after. So there's a lot of different differences with English consumers, for example. Here in the UK, it's more premium and luxury products, right? I mean, that will also be the case in France, Spain, Holland. However, we've noticed that the trends in the UK are people probably maybe spend a bit more money going after them premium products that might last a little bit longer. And then you have the Spanish consumers, which are more into more innovative products. Okay, so potentially trying new cosmetic products, ones that offer unique benefits. As we know now, compared to 10 years ago, there's different ingredients available. People have different skin types, which they did have 10, 20 years ago. However, there's more products now, which are more suitable for people potentially with certain health conditions as well, so it's such a massive market. It's ever changing. It's always growing. There's always new players coming into the field with certain new cosmetic products as well. So it's great for the end consumer at the end of the day because they just have a much larger choice to go at. A lot of the big cosmetic brands might not like it because they've kind of had a stranglehold on that field, or as you'd say, and now some of the smaller players are coming, but it ends up benefiting the consumer, which is a good thing. So yeah, I've covered German, Spanish, French, Italian. So there's little differences there, okay. However, the trend is people will be willing to spend money on a good cosmetic at the end of the day, right? So, if you are a cosmetic seller who's thinking, oh, how am I going to compete with some of these other brands that I've been selling for years, I wouldn't shy away from it. If you've got a good product with some good branding, there's always going to be an opportunity for you because people are just always willing to spend money on cosmetics. So yeah, I think that kind of covers the different regions and what their specifics are there.
Just a couple of things on that, Prince. Just
Hmm.
I think it was quite important for listeners to understand. So, it's really insightful. And I think often when we're launching new products into different regions, quite often there isn't, some really granular thought goes into it. Now, in most cases, in most product categories, it's probably less important to do so. But
Mhm.
how important do you think it is that sellers delve into what's going to work specifically in different regions in Europe, as opposed to just broad brushing it and say, look, we've done some sort of feasibility study here, and we can see that more products are going to do well in Europe, but that's a bit of a broad overview, and I should really dive into where am I going to get most sales in a specific country? Like, how important is that?
Yeah, no, great question. I think it is very important, to do that research. It all depends on your brand, really. How much, how much resource do you actually have? Of course, you want to target as many regions as possible when you enter the EU, okay? Because it's just going to give you a greater opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
There's more people to go at, essentially. But as you're saying, I think doing that research beforehand definitely makes a massive difference. Yeah. So relating to what I was saying previously, if your product is more targeted towards the high end luxury, then you want to probably go for the UK and maybe Italy. Okay, if that's
Mm-hmm.
what if your branding is high end and luxurious, then UK and Italy I'd go for. But then again, you might be losing a couple customers in potentially in Germany and France that would buy your product as well. So it is quite tricky. It probably goes down to how you're going to brand your product. If it was me and I was to start a cosmetic brand tomorrow, I would probably go more for the blanket approach, if I'm honest with you,
Okay.
and try and create a product that's going to target every region in the EU. Maybe with my first 1 to 5 products, and then I can branch into more sort of niche products per region.
Yeah, Prince, awesome. So, and just one final question on this, because I think it's really important. When we're talking about the aesthetics and the marketing of these particular products, if obviously if you're coming from out region into Europe, how should sellers market their products in terms of what they've already got on their packaging, or should they really be looking into making it more appropriate for what you've just discussed? Really.
Yeah, no. So yeah, great question again. So, I would say yes, 100%. Like we always recommend, and we'll probably go into this in a moment. You'll have to 100% do a form of product compliance on your labels anyway, right? So at that point, you'll have to complete translations specific to certain regions you want to sell your products in. So I would definitely recommend it, to definitely switch up your branding depending on which region you're selling in. As I've mentioned earlier, there are different consumer trends based on the country you're selling in as well. So if you want to put yourself at the sort of best opportunity to capture as many people as possible on these marketplaces or on online stores, you definitely need to change up your branding and marketing depending on the region.
Fantastic. Yep, super helpful. Yeah, thanks, Prince.
No worries.
So I think, in terms of what's required or what quirky bits are required for Europe, definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration. And there's lots of support you can get in that aspect. If you're currently selling on a marketplace in your domestic country, then certainly look for some support from them to understand what the likelihood of your product selling successfully in regions going to be, but also making sure you enlist somebody, a service provider who's confident, competent, and ultimately an expert in this field, because it is a category that is highly regulated, and you need to ensure that before you're looking to send product in that you're fully compliant. Which sort of brings us on to the next stage here, Prince, which is the process for for somebody who wants to launch a cosmetic product. And essentially, what's required here is a product information file, right? So the seller needs to create, with the support of the responsible person, which we'll come on to in a minute, needs to create a product information file. Now, we could go right in grassroots here, Prince, about what's included in a product information file, but there are various documents, testing documentations, raw material information, testing reports, animal testing information, stuff like that's included in it. So there's lots of information. However, I think before we dive into the sort of steps that's needed to be taken, I think it's really important to note that a lot of the documentation that's required is typically available, and providing that the cosmetic product is responsibly made and in an appropriate manufacturer, it's done by an appropriate manufacturer, that most of this documentation will be held. So therefore, there's only a few bits that need to be done in order for that product information file to be complete. And you touched on it earlier there about the compliance of the label. So just for the listeners, I'm just going to run through very quickly the process of getting to that stage. Feel free to interject if there's any areas you think would be important for people to know. But so the product information file is compiled of several bits of information, including a product label review, right? So that we take the label and then we understand if there's any information on it that changes the purpose or intended purpose of it, so claims, etc., or there's any statements on there that maybe change it from a cosmetic to a medicine, as an example. And if there's any information that needs to be added to that label or adjusted in order for it to be compliant. Once that label is compliant, you then need to match that up with a CPSR, which is a Cosmetic Product Safety Report. Those two pieces together, along with the other accompanying documentation, will make up a product information file. Now, once all of that, if you think of the product information simply as a ring binder full of documents, essentially that's what it is. However, we're not old school like that anymore. We do things digitally, but a digital file of information. Once all of that's compiled, you then need to register your product on the appropriate portals in the Europe and the UK, right?
Correct. Yeah, that is correct.
Yep.
Ultimately, you want to end up with the notifications, right? So CPNP in the EU and then SCMP in the UK. Sorry to butt into what you were saying, Drew. You're completely right there. The end goal is having them notifications. However, there is a certain process we need to complete before we get to that stage. So I'm going to rudely step out here where I interrupted you, so go back in.
No, not at all. Super helpful. So yeah, right. The registration is the end point. Now that has to happen by a responsible person. So somebody in region who can support you with the compliance and subsequent registration of them, who is competent and confident. Right. So we've got to be super clear here that they've got to be someone who totally understands the process and can register those products on your behalf compliantly. Once that's done, you then need to bear that responsible person's address on your label. Right? So your UK or European or both representative, you can put their address on your label, and then you're good for sale. So both from an importation perspective, a legal perspective, and a regulatory perspective, you're going to be compliant. So we take those stages of that product information file. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning, really, it's super important that you use a service provider who is well versed on this. So just ensure you do your research. Would be my suggestion. Ensure that you're getting somebody who can appropriately support you. Prince, is there anything else on that subject you think would be important for people to know?
No, I mean, ultimately, I think you've covered all of the key points there, Drew. You know, I guess the only thing I would really add is, for over the years, I've spoken to many different brands. We've got them over the line. What I would say is, I know it can be a bit overwhelming, when it comes to compliance and different regulations. So all I would say is, if you are a seller who is sitting on the fence and it's still confused about the process, hopefully you won't be after listening to this, but do just get in touch. Um, that's really our job here, to make this as easy as possible for you and hold your hand essentially throughout the whole process, which will ultimately end up in you being able to sell your products compliantly across the UK and EU. So just lean on our expertise here. But no, nothing to add to that really, Drew. You've covered all of the main points there.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you for your insight, Prince. And as Prince mentioned, if you want to get in touch and you want to reach out to Expandy for us to support, then click the link below. We'd be delighted to support free consultation, and we'd be delighted to support your expansion. Outside of that, if there's any, feel free to drop us a line if you've got any questions additionally to that. Prince, I want to thank you again. Enjoy the weather. We've got some sunshine here in the UK, which is unusual. So thanks again, and thank you everybody for listening. Much appreciated.
Yep. Thanks all. Bye.